Welcome to the Fortune Friday series, an interview series where I speak with entrepreneurs about money, the lessons they've learned, relationship with, and of course, the big dreams for their business and lifestyle. My name is Connie and I am a cash flow and business mentor. And on today's episode, I'm thrilled to be chatting with Megan Brame. She is a 5-time award-winning entrepreneur, author, podcaster, and advanced digital marketing strategist who helps entrepreneurs develop ride or die customers for life. Her sweet spot is in value-based marketing campaigns, and she helps business owners create better conversations through marketing. And of course, she is the podcast host of Stop Sucking at Business, which at the beginning of this episode, I have a slight fangirl moment. So please excuse me while I do that. And the top 3 takeaways for today's conversation is the emotions tied to money, stories she tells, and the spending that results from it. I can definitely relate to that as a spender. We also talk about the mindset about being bad or not knowing how to sell, and how, of course, that affects our revenue. And that was her roadblock that she learned most in her business. And the last one was her big dream is creating a passive revenue stream that provides freedom of time and, of course, the ability to serve more people. So our big dream can be about impact. It could be about making more revenue and how that works out. So I really appreciate the conversation today with Megan. So I hope you enjoy it too. So without delay, here's Megan. Well, thank you for joining me, Megan. It's so good to have you here.
Oh, Connie, this is my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
We had a great conversation on your podcast, Stop Sucking at Business. And it was my dream to be on your podcast because I was so drawn to the name.
Oh my God. That's so nice. Thank you.
She's like, I have to be on this podcast. And we had a great conversation. So I thought I'd have you join me and talk about stop sucking at money, type of thing. Yeah. So I loved you shared a quote with me. Can you share your favorite quote?
Oh, word for word? No, but I can.
Well, you picked this, and I'll put it in the show notes, but you picked this amazing quote from John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, we choose to go to the moon and do the other things, not because it's easy, but because it's hard and because it's right. It's something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. And why is that your favorite quote?
Oh, I think it's just when I read that, I am not of the JFK era, so this was way before my time. But when I read that, I saw it on like a History Channel thing with my grandfather back in the day or something like that. And I just remember it stuck out to me as this inherent drive that you have no matter what, no matter against, this is going to sound like some sort of, I don't know, Rudy movie or something like that. But like, no matter the obstacles you have against you or the mountains you have to climb, you still have this compulsion, this thing inside of you that says, I'm doing this. And I feel that that is so inherent with entrepreneurs. And, myself being an entrepreneur, when I was thinking about, how do I want to frame the person that I am as in like my professional life, and I guess to some extent my personal life too, but in my professional life. And that quote just kept coming back to me. It's something that just makes me feel like, um, you have this thing inside of you that makes you need to do this, and that's okay. Like relish that and love that because it will get you to the moon.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's interesting. Did you have any entrepreneurs in your family growing up?
Not in a traditional sense. I had a mother who was crafty, and so therefore we kind of just piece things together that were, like I had the bits and pieces of entrepreneurship around me. My family was always very hands-on, do it yourself, DIY. And for me, that just sort of sprung into I can't work for other people. I have to work for myself. and so and so I'm gonna have to make this up as I go. And so that's probably where most of my entrepreneurial background comes from, even though it's not a traditional, like my grandfather ran a business.
Yeah, no, it's 'cause I find that's interesting is like I don't meet very many people that had entrepreneurs as family members. Now we're entrepreneurs and we're going to change and be those mentors and for our family members now and see what kind of change that will happen for future generations. But I just am interested in like where did that drive come from? Why did that? I mean, for me, jumping into entrepreneurship was about freedom of time
Mm-hmm.
that I needed more freedom of time. So it's just always curious to me about how do people make that initial jump into it.
Yeah. I
So
think mine was just I said I couldn't work for people, but it was more that I just um I felt I was cocky, I guess, like when I was in corporate that I knew what I was doing and I did because I won all these awards. Like I knew what I was doing and I hated having to fight for what was right instead of like what was sales or what was like so that's when I was just like I have this thing inside of me that I know how to do this and I know how to transform things. So I'm going to go where I can be best appreciated and that was entrepreneurship.
lovely. I love that. Well, let's talk about money. What is your earliest memory of money?
Oh, um I know I answered this for you before, but now my mind's a blank. So I guess my earliest memory of money is getting a book when I was a kid called Money Smart Kids and Parents Too. It was, I can't even remember who wrote it or what. It was something I got when I was preteen, I'll say like 11 or 12. And I just remember reading about it and reading these things, just hearing that, like, oh, um, this is how you become better financially and this is how and it was kind of high level thinking for a kid but
Yeah,
it was still like it's still stuck in there somewhere and so that's my earliest memory about it.
yeah. Did you do you know who where you got it? Did you just get it like from the library or maybe from one of we used
No, I owned it. I don't know if it was a gift or if it was like I remember the cover and I remember it was a yellow book. And so maybe I was just like, it's a yellow book with a piggy bank on it. So I'm gonna learn how to be a millionaire at 12 years old. I don't know.
nice.
um it was probably a gift from somebody, though. I can't imagine who it would have been from. My
Huh,
family was never great with money. So maybe that's how it got seeded into me. Like, we're going to change this with Megan.
nice, nice. Okay. So your both parents were not really great with money, like they were both spenders or that money was tight growing up. Do you
Uh,
remember?
I think money was emotion for my family. And
Mm,
so we celebrate, we spend money. We console, we spend money. And I think that, um, my mom and I lived with my grandparents when I was a kid. And so um, my mom was very young when she had me. She was 19 when she had me. And so she was kind of learning as she was going and maybe making some mistakes along the way. But we had, just this foundation of just not a really rocky foundation about money. And so I think that it wasn't necessarily that there were specific like overspending or something like that. I think it was just more about impulsivity and
mm.
emotion.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I can totally relate to that as a spender. I use money to fill emotional needs.
Mhm.
so, um, so most businesses now, I've talked to some entrepreneurs and they don't think of it as a rock bottom moment. They think of it as a learning opportunity. But most businesses have that moment where there something happens and it puts them in a different course, a different journey, and it usually has to do with money. Do you have one in your business?
I do. My first business when I ran a company that was a soap and skincare and candle manufacturing company. And I would go to trade shows. I'd go to these industry trade shows that were huge. Just for your listeners, if they know the New York Javits Center, it was just like this giant industry only event. It cost thousands of dollars just to get a booth back then. I think like now it's at least $20,000 for a booth. And that's just the pipe and drape. So it was just me doing all of these things, setting up this booth, going into like the big boys area. And had no idea how to do it. I didn't have confidence in my ability to sell. And so it became, the snake eating itself, where I don't know how to sell. So I don't make any sales. And I don't make any sales because I don't know how to sell. And so at the end of the day, I would spend 10, $15,000 to just stand at this show for days and get no sales. And so when that happened, I did it 3 times. And the 3rd time, I was just like, look, clearly there is some disconnect in my ability to run this business that I can't overcome myself. So it's either that I have to change my strategy for sales, like how I acquire sales, or I have to bring somebody else on to do that. And, like we talked about on my podcast, very long story short, I burned out from that business because I wouldn't give up control of anything and because I was terrified to let people in. So hitting that rock bottom of like $15,000 Amex bills staring me down, I realized that while I had a traditional idea of what business meant, that didn't mean that that was the route for me. And so I was going to have to carve out a path for entrepreneurship and my business that was something I was either comfortable giving away to somebody else more talented, or driving it in a different route to accommodate my weaknesses and my strengths. And so I think that's why I just gravitate towards marketing rather than sales. I love marketing so much more because it's so much more interesting to me, but it's also where I'm strongest.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love the thought because I think now, especially with the younger generation that's coming up as us entrepreneurs, traditional business is not cutting it
Mm-mm.
anymore. That idea of capitalism and things, they're really wanting to do it their own way. And I so appreciate the younger entrepreneurs right now because they have that energy of like, no, I'm going to, do it my way. What its strength for me, where my strength is, and where my joy is to do it, not based
Yeah.
on this idea over here of like my parents or my grandparents or whatever. And I do
And I
find,
love that. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry,
No.
I do find that businesses, usually that roadblock does happen when we're trying to be that traditional business model. I think that
Yeah.
was interesting. Yeah.
And I think that also the market's responding to that. How many times do you hear people buy from people and not people buy from corporations? I don't know. When you started your first business, for me, it was like, you do not be yourself. You be a shadow, like the Wizard of Oz, but behind this giant, like, we instead of I. And, and it's flipped now, which is so much better.
Hmm. Yeah, I do. I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. Yeah, well, and I think too, trade shows are an interesting way to invest in your business because
Mm,
it's reliant on people stopping by for many reasons, not just if
right.
your ability to sell behind the table. It's you got to catch their you got to be warm and welcoming so they'll come up to the table, not just pass you by. I don't want anything. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a lot to that. So awesome. Um, well, and then you got into marketing.
Yes.
So, what type of business goal are you working towards now that more revenue would help you to realize? Is there a goal that more revenue, more money support would help
Mm.
you have a big dream bigger? Or
Well, I think I like this one because what my goal is to start creating more passive streams of
Mm,
income so that I can get more time and more freedom with my time. So my goals right now are to develop more things that are transformative but don't really require my personal touch with that. So, I do marketing coaching for entrepreneurs, and that's my main bread and butter, but I'd really love to start focusing more on branching out into more courses or more things that are transformative without the high touch part. That's what I'm strategizing towards. So fingers crossed on it.
I love that. So yeah, so And then you can reach a bigger audience too. And it's not just reliant on finding the right time to work one-on-one with you or in a group, and that people can like even do pre-work. I think sometimes there's that space where they're getting some knowledge before they're even ready to work in a group or a one-on-one
Yeah.
environment. So you're spreading, you're helping more people, which is great.
And that's my goal, that, and I think that's the goal for most entrepreneurs now is just the more people you can help transform, get from A to B, the better. So I'm hoping that I can really dedicate some time towards building that side of my business.
And as you leverage your time, is there a personal goal that you're working to so that you have, if you're able to build that passive income to have more time for yourself?
Oh, well, pre-pandemic it was traveling more, but now it's just um my husband's a freelance writer, and so my goals are just to be with him more and to have that time together in whatever capacity that is, if that's traveling or if it's just laying in bed watching The Sopranos for the 36th time. It's having that option, and that's what I want to dedicate my time towards making more of.
Yeah, I love that. When you are available to travel again, do you have
Mhm.
like the destination you're going to?
Well, 2019, we were planning for 2020 to go to Madrid, so we'll probably start that again. Ireland was my favorite place, so I'd love to go back there. My husband's turning 40 this year, and I'll be turning 40 in a couple years. So we were also planning to do Scotland this year, but since that's not really working out, we're going to try and do maybe like a half Z's 40th birthday travel to Scotland. But wherever, man, I love it's so cool. I love traveling, and wherever I can go, let's do it.
Yeah, and money helps support that. So do
Yes,
you so
absolutely.
so do you have like a savings account for travel, or how do you intentionally like plan that? Or is it just in the back of your mind that this is where you're going to go and this is what you're creating?
It's very embarrassingly like A Beautiful Mind with like the strings and everything in my head. I'm just like, point all of this yarn and everything. My main method of travel is by leveraging credit card points and what's called churning. I did that for a long time, and actually, we got a first class trip to Tokyo for free because of that. So that's usually how I try and best leverage it, in addition to having savings. But we don't really have any savings buckets,
Mhm.
particularly. It's just more of a general account. And here's where we want to go. Let me sort of put all these strings together to figure out how I can use, my Amex points or something to get us there. And then we'll make up the difference.
Oh, yeah, my points, I don't, maybe we'll have a conversation
Oh
offline.
my God. I could, yeah. I could do a very special episode just of Megan ranting about Amex versus Chase points. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Um, so is it just you and your business, or do you have a support team or anyone that's supporting you behind the scenes? It could also be not in the business. Maybe you have a support team that helps you at home or in your personal life.
So I have a VA, Danica. She used to be a blogger for me on my other blog and we've been together for years. I love her. She is so helpful and amazing. I have a podcast editor, Blicia, who is the driving force behind keeping the podcast going. I have Govinda, who does my web design. And then in a support system in my personal life, we just recently hired a housekeeper to come in twice a month to do that. It was, something that was in my head of just making me feel guilty that I wasn't being that person with a spotless home and this perfect life, and so rather than trying to mold myself into this person that I was not, let's free this up, the space in my head, so that the house is clean, my life is clean, and I don't have to let it I don't have to feel guilty about it anymore. And
Yeah.
so that's been a huge help.
Yeah. Yeah. They're my favorite. My housekeeping team is my favorite team, support team.
Oh,
I love my, I love my marketing team too, that I work with, the course correct team, but the hiring housekeepers and making that a priority in
yeah.
our household budget was the best thing I could do for myself. But one thing that creates so much joy is walking into the house and the smell of clean. And I still tinker and make things
Mhm.
clean on a
Yeah.
weekly basis, but just having them come in once or twice a month it helps with the bigger stuff, and it helps me have
Right.
more time down on the weekends to recharge my batteries. So it's I love them. I love them.
And I think that a lot of people don't realize that it's fairly reasonable.
Hmm.
It to me, it always sounded like this is something rich people do. And I'm not this rich person. I was like, well, let me actually look into how much this would be. And for us, it's a couple of hundred a month, which is still privileged, but not this point where it's unobtainable, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And I do think so too. Is about what I find most of all the housekeeping teams I've worked with. They really love to clean. They
Yeah.
have all these little uh, shortcuts and techniques that they do, and they love to share them with you if you want to listen. But and I think when people are hiring bookkeepers too, that's the other
Mm,
piece, is that you want to really hire the team members that love
yeah.
whatever task they're doing,
Yeah.
because they're going to show up better. They're going to consistently show up for you, and you can like it's so much better when you're paying somebody to do something they love. And so
Yes.
uh,
It's easier, just so much easier because you don't feel like I'm forcing you to do this thing.
mhm, yeah, I love that. Well, we can end with an inspiration. I always like to end with inspiration. The thing is, what gratitude about your business can you share, and how it contributes to your overall life?
The gratitude that I have for my business is that I get to sit here and talk with you right now. I don't have to I don't have to ask for permission. I don't have to, talk to a boss. I can say Connie's a priority. This is what I'm going to do. And I am so grateful to have that ability. It's not something that a lot of people have. So I recognize that. And what it's done in my life is just given me the opportunity to talk to you, talk to other people, help other people, and not have to hate the work that I do.
Yeah.
Completely on the contrary, I love the work I do. And I'm so grateful that I get to do it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, as I mentioned before we started the show today, for some reason, I was drawn to pick up this Oracle card deck. It's Money and the Law of Attraction cards by Esther and Jerry Hicks. It was just screaming at me, like going, pick me up, and ask Megan if she would like to pull a card. So I'm just going to have you cut the deck at some point.
There.
Right there.
Yep.
Okay. So
This is fun. This is like a game show.
the card is, there is no shortage of money or time.
Oh,
So,
you're just talking about freedom of time. So that's perfect.
yeah. Uh, and any attention to shortage of something wanted will always produce a negative emotion within you, because your guidance is letting you know that you have strayed from your broader basic understanding of abundance and well-being.
I love
Whether you're
that.
focused upon the shortage of money or seeing yourself as having only so many years to live, that feeling of decline is contrary to your broader understanding of the eternal nature of your being. So there is no shortage of money or time. I love that piece, because I think I talk a lot about that with clients, about when you constantly looking at debt or lack, you're looking down, and that's the container you create.
Yeah.
And if you can have more gratitude for money in your business, you will look up and you'll look for opportunities, and you'll feel more abundant naturally. And I think that's exactly what that card is saying.
Completely agree. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Well, awesome. We'll share. You brought have a free gift for people so they can get to know you, date you a little bit, because marketing is something fun. So tell people about what you do and the free thing that they can get.
So, I'm an advanced digital marketing strategist. What I love to do is help entrepreneurs create better conversations with their clients, whether it's customers, service clients, things like that. I love to help people stop feeling terrified about marketing. And so that's what I do. I help people through a couple of courses, my podcast, and coaching. So they can check me out at meganbrame.com. That's my whole smorgasbord of things. But if you go to meganbrame.com/marketing audit, you can download a free quarterly marketing audit spreadsheet. So it's the same thing I use with my clients. It just helps you create better focus on where you want to spend your quarterly marketing strategy, how to make sure it's working, and what to do if it's not working. And I love it because there's so many different places you can market. And so this just gives you a better way to have clarity about your goals and what your goals look like.
I love that. I love that. And don't wait for a calendar quarter to download
Right.
this. Any 3 months will do. And I think it gives you great focus on what that looks like. I know I'm going to go download that after we get off this session, because I'm at that point right now of starting to think about my next quarter of production and topics and those types of things. So I'm looking forward to that. Well,
Excellent.
Megan, thank you so much for being on the Fortune Fridays show. I think Megan and I will be doing another episode soon, but we'll let you know when that airs later. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Megan.
Thanks so much.